Hello, everybody. My name is Jack Hintz. This is Pebble, and this is my Black is the Body, Mother Earth chapter reflection. So first, I'm just going to do a summary of what happens in each chapter, and then I'm going to go through which ones are my favorite. So first, the first chapter, she begins by talking about fertility drugs that she had and she was taking with John, and she said that she didn't know if they were the way for her until she realized they weren't when she smashed a wooden cutting board over John's head like it was nothing, and she at that point they realized that the drugs were not for them. She then talks about postpartum depression and just pregnancy in general. She talks about that a lot in this chapter, and she talks about how her infertility made her feel like she was a failure, and she made her really doubt herself and really sad about who she was as a person just because she was unable to have kids. In the next chapter, she talks about adoption. She talks about how it didn't come to her at first, but then she realized over time that it was the right choice and it was what her and John really wanted to do. It made her feel selfish when she adopted kids because she said it was the most self-centered thing she's ever done because she did it for herself because she herself could not have kids, and she said, I want to do this, and she considered herself selfish for that. She talks about the Ethiopia government and how she almost loses her kids, how her and John spent that night crying in each other's arms because they thought the adoption wasn't going to go through. She says they said prepare for the worst. The children couldn't like being labeled as miracles. Every time her mother tells them that, they go, Mommy, stop, we're not miracles, we're just kids. And they don't know, because they're so young, they don't understand the concept of adoption and how lucky they are to be with their mother. In the next chapter, she talks about how when her friends got pregnant, she was like, she wanted to do it, and then she insisted on having a baby shower for her friends' children. She's at these baby showers, and she's walking around, and this woman hands her this newborn baby, and she doesn't know what to do with it, and it freaks her out. She puts it back in the other mother's arms, and it really triggers her because she was unable to have a baby herself, and she had to adopt, and just pregnant mothers walking around everywhere. She also said that the baby shower was almost full of pregnant people, and she couldn't believe how many people there were pregnant, and just handing people their kids, and it kind of triggered her and made her upset. She was kind of like stunned by her friends' comments and stuff. She explained to her daughters the concept of blood relationships after that, and the daughters are kind of, blood? What's that? So it wasn't really easy for her to describe that to her daughters. So the next chapter, it was kind of a short chapter. Her daughters try to like find out what to call her. She said stepmother at first, and then a different suggestion, and they kind of go over it. And at one point, one of her daughters throws the insult, "You're not my real mother," at her. And she said, "I'm your mother on earth, so you're still not going to be able to wear pajamas to school." So she's kind of explaining to her girls that just because she's not she's not their biological mother, she still has a say in what they have to do, because she's still their mother on earth. And the next chapter talks about Julia, the babysitter, and the story of how she met her daughter's biological grandmother, and she felt like she wasn't really like she felt like unworthy. She said she felt like guilty, but she said she could see when she looked at the grandmother, she could see the anguish of her daughter's death in her eyes, her children's biological mother who had passed away before she adopted. In the next chapter, she talks about the story of the babysitter's experience with the kids, and she's learning the kids adopted, and she's saying, "Oh, it's not a bad thing," in kind of a high pitched tone. So it's talking about that, and she writes down a lot about that. She talks about Tigray, where they're from. She talks about how her girls, their hearts and their minds and their bodies belong to two continents. She has a past and present kind of concept thrown in there at one point, and she talks a lot about how just her girls they almost have like two identities. They have two families. They have two places to call home. So she talks about that a lot. And then she tells them that she's their mother on earth. And you know what I mean? Like, she's like, I'm not your biological mother, but I'm going to do everything that a biological mother would do. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to smell your teeth I'm going to smell your breath to make sure you brush your teeth. I'm going to wash your hands for you. She's going to do all the things a biological mother would do. I think my favorite part of the chapter was definitely the part where she talks about just the babysitter's experience and how, like, kind of opened her eyes and stuff like that. And when she describes the last chapter where she describes her the mindset of past and present, I thought that was really kind of cool, especially because the children she's adopted are from the past, and when she meets her grandmother, she meets kind of like the present and stuff like that, and she is the future. The author of this chapter is the future. I really enjoyed just reading this entire chapter. It was really cool just to hear her talk about how at first she didn't want kids. She didn't want to be pregnant. She said she didn't want it. She wanted to do it, but it didn't interest her enough. But then she came around and realized that adoption was the way for her. And I just really enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was very wholesome, and I just really enjoyed the concept she talked about in this chapter. Get off my arm.